Dale Breckinridge Carnegie was an American educator, writer, and speaker who created a well-known theory. Carnegie translated the scientific developments of psychologists into the practical field and developed his own concept of non-conflict communication and self-improvement. The outstanding psychologist Dale Carnegie has helped many people in their lives. In his books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, as well as in his brilliant lectures on practical psychology, he revealed the secrets of successful communication, taught problem-solving, building relationships with others, making a career, and personal growth. And although over half a century has passed since Carnegie's death, everything he wrote remains relevant and in demand. He is admired, called great and amazing, and his famous phrases are still quoted. And how can you not repeat them if they allow you to fundamentally change your view on many things? To live and enjoy, you need only two things. First, to live, and secondly, to enjoy. Two people looked through the bars. One saw mud and one saw stars. When fate hands you a lemon, make lemonade. Impoverished childhood. On November 24th, 1888, in the state of Missouri, Dale Breckinridge Carnegie was born to his mother, Amanda Elizabeth Harbison, who was a teacher, and his father, James William Carnegie, who was a farmer. Despite their hard work, the farm was struggling with crop destruction from water damage and disease, wiping out their pig population almost every year. Dale received his first pair of galoshes at the age of 14, which made him appreciate having dry feet during bad weather. When his father gave him 10 cents for a holiday, he felt like he owned all of the Indian treasures. Education. Despite the family's desperate financial situation, his parents managed to provide Dale with a good education. He enrolled in a teaching college in Warrensburg. Since they couldn't afford a rental apartment, he had to live at home and ride a horse to college every day. He kept to himself among his classmates for 3 reasons. First, he was embarrassed about his poverty. Secondly, he simply didn't have time to socialize with students. Informally, he could only open his textbooks during short breaks between hard farm work. And thirdly, he was just not of interest to anyone. Shy, awkward, uncharming. Apparently, he was embarrassed about the absence of his left index finger, which he lost as a teenager. As a result, he became so tired of loneliness that he decided out of desperation to join a discussion group. This happened in 1906, when he was in his penultimate year at college. Suddenly it turned out that the guy had great abilities for oratory. Dale threw himself into this new occupation with all his passion. He even tried to use his horseback riding time wisely by practicing his eloquence. In one of his emotional speeches, by the way, he demanded that the government ban Japanese immigration to the United States. However, the young man practiced his speeches in the cowshed and on the hayloft. He seriously believed that great success was waiting for him in the field of oratory. By successfully performing at the club meetings, Dale gained confidence, got rid of low self-esteem, and honed his speaking skills. Success soon followed. Within a year, the young speaker was recognized as the best in all public speaking competitions held in college, and some classmates even asked him to work with them. The search for one's place. After completing his education, Dale decided to open distance learning courses for local farmers, whose ranches were scattered across the West Nebraska and East Wyoming territories. With great enthusiasm, he embarked on what he believed to be a promising venture. But his ambitious plans were not meant to be realized. He needed to figure out what to do next. He found his next opportunity in South Omaha. He got a job with one of the local Carnegie firms and began selling meat, lard, and oil. He traveled all over the western regions of South Dakota in postal coaches, freight cars, and on horseback, and visited thousands of homes and knocked on tens of thousands of doors. Since his earnings depended on the quantity of goods he sold, he had to advertise them aggressively. And at night, he wrote his first book on how to talk to people effectively. The collection of useful advice was published, but the first attempt did not go well as only 2 copies of the brochure were sold. Soon Dale arrives in New York. Here he sells trucks, lives in cheap rented rooms infested with cockroaches, eats in dirty diners, and desperately hates what he does and everything around him. He has no opportunity to read or write books, something he dreamed of in his college years, because there is no time for anything. His dead-end job takes all his energy. By saving $500 from his earnings, Carnegie decides to give up trading and pursue what he is best at. Analyzing his limited life experience, he realized that his most useful skill in his daily activities is public speaking. This skill helped him overcome shyness and effectively communicate with clients. Therefore, he will teach the basics of communication in an evening school. Favorite thing. Since 1911, Carnegie has been a teacher of rhetoric and stagecraft, and soon he opens his own school and travels the country giving lectures. Within a year, he is already teaching a course at the evening school of the Young Men's Christian Association, YMCA, in Upper Manhattan. His students, adults who came to his classes, were not attracted by the prospect of obtaining a certificate. They wanted to learn how to solve their problems, such as getting rid of shyness, gaining self-confidence, achieving higher positions, and starting to earn well, advancing in business. And the young teacher gave them what they needed. Dale was thrilled with his new job. He achieved such success in it that the management of Hamel, who initially paid him $2 per session, increased his fee to $30. The lecturer's fame reached other Hamel centers, working in neighboring cities. Invitations poured in. During his teaching career, Carnegie developed his own system of communication education, which was so unique that he obtained copyrights for it. He wrote several brochures that solidified his popularity. And in 1926, he published his first book, The Art of Public Speaking and Influencing Business Partners, revised in 1931. By the way, 4 years before this remarkable event, Dale began writing his last name differently, not as Carnegie, but as Carnegie. He most likely did this for the purpose of self-promotion. A widely known millionaire at the time carried the same last name, Andrew Carnegie. Perhaps this slight adjustment to his last name played a mystical role. Dale's fortunes sharply improved. Success textbook. At first, Carnegie only taught public speaking. But soon he noticed that his students were interested not only in public speaking skills, but also wanted to learn how to make friends and influence people. Since there was no textbook on this topic, the teacher began to write one. This is how the famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was born. It was published in 1936, and it turned out that this was exactly what people needed. In an engaging way, the author talked about how to behave in order to make a good impression on others and thus influence their decisions. Over the course of a year, grateful readers bought 1 million copies, and during the author's lifetime, more than 5 million copies were sold in the United States alone. The book set a kind of record. For 10 years, according to the New York Times, it was recognized as a bestseller. There were numerous reprints, translations into other languages of the world, but most importantly, the author became famous worldwide and finally achieved financial stability. The textbook Against Fear. This can also be called another famous creation by Carnegie, which was printed in 1948 under the title How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And once again, it turned out that people were just waiting for the famous author to once again tell them how to make their lives better. We all suffer from stress from time to time, which can lead to excessive paranoia, anxiety, susceptibility to fears, and the inability to get exhausting thoughts out of our heads. Chronic worry clouds our existence, deprives it of colors, undermines our health, and becomes an obstacle on the path to prosperity, success, and happiness. Dale Carnegie offers a multitude of advice based not only on his psychological expertise, but also on his practical experience on how to overcome countless fears, find inner peace and harmony. Personal life. Dale Carnegie's personal life was not as successful as his creative and professional life. He was married twice. He divorced his first wife in 1931, but kept this information a secret, as he was lecturing and writing books about how to build good relationships within a family at that time. He married for the second time in 1944. He had a daughter named Donna Dale with his second wife, and he adopted his wife's daughter. The second marriage became nominal, but Carnegie did not divorce his wife because she turned out to be an excellent manager in his corporation. In his final years, Carnegie suffered from an incurable illness and passed away on November 1st, 1955, at his home in Forest Hills, New York. He was buried in Belton, Missouri. After Dale Carnegie's death, his Institute of Effective Speaking and Human Relations was managed by his wife, Dorothy. Dale Carnegie's books: 1. How to Build Self-Confidence and Influence People When Speaking Publicly. 2. How to Win Friends and Influence People. 3. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. 4. How to Overcome Feeling of Anxiety. 5. Little-known facts about well-known people. 6. Whims of Fortune or Whims of Luck. 7. 6 Ways to Make People Like You. In short, Dale Carnegie's life example can teach us the most important lesson: to listen to ourselves, follow our hearts, find our unique path, do what we love and have the ability for, not be afraid to step out of our comfort zone, develop ourselves and understand that there are no bad people, only unsuitable life situations from which we can always find a way out.